I've always considered myself a cautious person, but one rash action dragged me into a maze of dangers from which there seemed to be no way out. Each step brought me closer to the truth, but it turned out to be more terrifying than I could have imagined. The end of this story will definitely surprise you. The first thing I noticed was the badge. It was lying face down near the edge of our dresser, right where Katie always tossed her work ID when she came home in a rush. Only this time, the name on it wasn't hers. Not exactly. It was her photo, her airline, her smile, but the last name printed underneath wasn't Langston. It was Bowers, a name I'd never heard her mention. I turned it over slowly, my thumb pressing into the edge of the plastic. Maybe it was a mistake, a clerical switch, a new protocol, but something about the smooth feel of it in my hand made my chest tighten. I knew Katie. I knew her routines, her tells, her shortcuts. But this didn't fit. I hadn't even had a chance to ask her about it before she was out the door. She kissed my cheek in that breezy way she did when she wanted to keep something light, and by the time the front door shut, I was still holding the badge like it might start whispering answers. She said she was flying to Denver, but that night when I pulled her uniform from the hamper to toss in a load of laundry, a crumpled concert ticket fell out of the jacket pocket. Seattle, a Tuesday show at a small indie venue that I knew she didn't care about. The band wasn't even her taste. Too raw, too loud. It made no sense unless it wasn't her idea. The details kept piling on in ways too subtle to scream, but too sharp to ignore. In the bathroom, there was a new bottle of perfume. I'd never smelled it before. Not on her, not on anyone. Musky, warm, like firewood and vanilla. Beside it, untouched, was a spa gift card, still in its little envelope. To unwind, it said in looping cursive. No name, no sender. That night, when her phone rang and FaceTime lit up the living room, I saw her freeze in place for just half a second. A hesitation, a pulse of guilt so quick it almost didn't register. Then she silenced it. When I walked in, she smiled like nothing had happened. "Oh, just a coworker. They mix up the time zones sometimes," she said, brushing it off with a laugh that was one breath too high. Something about her felt distant lately. Not angry, not cold, just preoccupied. Distracted in a way that didn't come from jet lag or scheduling chaos. She was holding back in tiny slices. Our conversations were shorter, her answers more clipped. That night she claimed she had to stay late for a crew compliance check. But then, like a fool, I opened Instagram. Her story played automatically. A photo of a wine glass. The caption tagged a place I'd never heard of. A soft-lit bar with a fire pit. Definitely not inside an airport. Curiosity gnawed at me, but I didn't say anything. Not then. I didn't want to accuse. I wanted to know. A week later, I found the beach hat. It was in her back seat, half tucked under the passenger seat like she'd tossed it in a rush. It said Cape Cod across the brim, stitched in white script, still holding a faint scent of ocean breeze. We'd never been to Cape Cod, not once. That night I pulled up her Instagram again, screenshotted the wine bar, then ran a quick search. Cape Cod Oyster House. Not in Denver, not even close. It was in Boston. My stomach flipped. I clicked through photos of the place and spotted the same couch, the same lighting, even the same drink menu she'd posted. It was unmistakable. She was lying, and the lies weren't even careful anymore. I started noticing other things. Her car's mileage didn't line up with her declared routes. Her hair smelled different when she came home. A cologne scent not hers. The final push came with the shirt. Just a basic t-shirt she tossed me to wash while she packed for another overnight run. It reeked of some unfamiliar brand of deodorant. Strong, male, not mine. I didn't even flinch when she canceled our weekend getaway. "Last-minute shift change," she said. "Sorry, babe. I'll make it up to you." But her smile didn't reach her eyes. She was already zipping up a suitcase she hadn't even unpacked from her last trip. That night, when she finally fell asleep, I took her iPad from the kitchen drawer. I hadn't done anything like that before. I'd never even thought to. But I needed to see, needed proof. She never logged out. I opened her travel app. Her next flight was real, but it ended a full day before she told me she'd be back. I flipped to the calendar, checked her sync notes, and that's when I saw the pattern. Her overnights were always longer than she claimed. Her return flights landed earlier than she walked in, and her location history, something she forgot to delete, showed cities we'd never even talked about. Chicago, Miami, Boston, again and again. She wasn't just cheating. That thought would have been easier, more digestible. No, this was worse. Katie was living a second life, and she was really damn good at hiding it. Until now. By Thursday, I wasn't just suspicious. I was strategic. I called in sick to work, told my supervisor I needed a few personal days to handle some family stuff. That wasn't a lie. Family was exactly what I was trying to hold together, or at least understand before it fell apart completely. Katie had no idea. She left that morning like always. Hair curled, uniform crisp, roller bag clicking against the floor. And I stood by the window just long enough to watch her car turn the corner. Then I moved. I needed mobility, eyes, flexibility without being noticed. So I signed up as a courier, Uber Eats, a generic name badge, and access to every part of Portland without drawing attention. I could move through neighborhoods without suspicion, knock on doors without consequence, and sit in my car on any street for hours with a paper bag on the seat and no one would care. People ignored delivery drivers. That's the magic of them. The first day I tailed her phone location, I had access through the iPad. She forgot to unlink her account. And while she thought I was on the other side of town designing steel joints for a bridge, I was across the street from the marina, parked behind a line of SUVs. Katie wasn't working. She wasn't anywhere near an airport. She was at a yacht club. It wasn't even subtle. She walked out of the club in sunglasses and a pale blue dress I hadn't seen before. She wasn't alone. A man followed her, taller than me, tan, in that slightly careless, moneyed way that always makes you feel overdressed even in jeans. They didn't hold hands. Not at first. But she reached for his arm when they crossed the lot. Then came the hug. Too long to be friendly, too familiar to be new. And then she kissed him. Just a quick one. Casual, like she'd done it 1,000 times before. My chest tightened like a rope being pulled fast, but I didn't move. I didn't even look away. I pressed record. The drone came later. It was a small one, quiet, fast, just enough for aerial shots. I used it the next day when she left for her layover in Dallas. I followed the signal to a different part of the city, a neighborhood full of low-rise condos and upscale cafes. The drone hovered above an intersection where she stepped out of a black car and into a townhouse gate. The man from the yacht club was already waiting at the door. The footage wasn't crystal clear, but it was enough. The next morning, while Katie was in the shower, I checked her gym bag. Buried under a folded towel was a planner I hadn't seen before. Slim, leather cover. No name, just a single monogram in the corner. BT. The pages were filled with scribbles, half-coded notes, dates that didn't match her airline schedule. Woods Cove, 4 p.m., Beacon S, Sunset, Return Key, F. No full names, no company logos, but patterns. Always patterns. I copied the notes, took photos of each page and zipped the planner up just like I found it. She never noticed. That same afternoon, I walked into our bank branch under the pretense of updating a contact address. While the teller clicked through my account, I asked to see a full transaction history, just to cross-check with our budget. She handed me a printout, 7 pages thick, and smiled like it was nothing. But on that paper was everything. Cash withdrawals in cities she never mentioned. Boston, Chicago, Miami. Not just pocket change, full grand level pulls. All made from ATMs located in boutique hotels, private lounges, and rental car agencies. Katie didn't gamble. Katie hated carrying cash. I booked a one-way flight to Miami 3 nights later, using reward points and an old ID I hadn't touched in months. I didn't tell anyone I was going. She thought I was at a structural inspection upstate. When the plane touched down, I took a cab to the address linked to one of the transaction codes I traced online. A condo near the marina. The building was new, sleek. The kind of place that didn't ask questions if your shoes were clean and you used a key code with confidence. And I had one. I'd called the management company 2 days before, pretended to be an out-of-state leasing agent following up on a new tenant application. I asked for a walkthrough time. They gave me the door code without hesitation. When I stepped inside, I didn't even bother turning on the lights. It smelled like her, that same expensive perfume, that fireplace and vanilla smell. And there on the table, under the glow of a dim lamp, was a photo, a candid shot. Katie curled under a throw blanket, legs in that man's lap, his hand on her thigh, both of them holding champagne flutes. Behind them, party remnants, a pink streamer, 2 glasses, one lie after another, wrapped in soft laughter. I took the photo. I opened a drawer and found travel magazines, a guest card from a hotel in Mexico, a single sock that wasn't mine, a tube of face cream I'd bought her last Christmas, now resting beside a toothbrush that wasn't ours. I left everything untouched except the photo. Then I closed the door behind me, turned the lock, and booked a return flight. Back home, I set up a meeting with a lawyer, because whatever Katie had built, this game, this fantasy, this web, she was about to learn what it felt like to be caught in it. I didn't tell Katie I had been in Miami. She walked through the door that Sunday evening like she always did, heels in hand, scarf over her shoulder, spinning some half-baked story about a canceled flight and a crew delay in Minneapolis. I nodded, offered her a glass of water, and pretended to scroll through work emails while she unpacked lies with the ease of someone who had rehearsed them mid-flight. She didn't know I'd already stood in her other life, in a condo that smelled like secrets, holding a photograph of her sipping champagne in someone else's lap. And for the first time, I didn't feel rage. I felt ready. The next morning, I visited a different bank, a small second-tier branch on the east side of Portland, one I'd scoped out months ago for a project that never materialized. I opened a new account in a different name, my mother's maiden, and transferred our savings into it in 3 separate batches over 48 hours. I wanted no red flags, no alerts, just a quiet disappearance of liquidity. Katie didn't check our banking dashboard regularly. That was my thing: budgeting, bill pay, investment tracking. She left it to me, and now that ignorance was a gift. I moved every family document we owned, birth certificates, tax returns, property deeds, into a safety deposit box downtown. Different branch, different name. I walked out of the building and stood in the rain for a moment just to feel it. Cold, clean, absolute. The kind of rain that resets everything. Then I went home and got to work. On my personal laptop, not the shared one, not the one she knew the password to, I opened a backup folder I hadn't touched in 2 years. Inside were 3 subfolders. One held document scans I recovered from an old iCloud sync. The second recovered text messages from Katie's number, pulled during a routine backup she never realized had included all message threads, even the deleted ones. And the third was labeled simply contingency. It started as a folder for prenup documentation, receipts, and travel insurance when we got married. Over time, I added more: photos from anonymous numbers, weird Venmo splits labeled with initials, even GPS tags from Google Maps timelines she didn't know were synced. And now it had grown into a weapon. I printed 36 pages of her texts, her and the man I now knew as Blake. Not just flirtation, full detail, descriptions, photos, the kind no husband should ever have to hold in his hands. Naked mirror shots, voice notes moaning his name, promises to leave me soon. Max doesn't see anything. It's like living with a ghost. Number. It was like living beside a ghost. She was the one who was hollow. I ordered a small manila envelope. Inside it, I placed a single page of Katie's printed messages, one photo of her in Blake's lap, and a blank USB. I had it shipped, not to our house, but to the neighbor's address, 2 doors down. I left a note asking if they could pass it to Katie as a delivery error while I was out. They didn't ask questions. Suburbia never does. That evening, I was waiting for her at the kitchen table when she walked in. No food, no music, just silence and a low lamp. Her eyes moved to the flash drive, then the letter beside it. She didn't speak, not a word. She turned white. I didn't yell. I didn't move. I just looked at her, steady and silent, until she turned away and walked upstairs. An hour later, she came down with a suitcase. She didn't even close the front door behind her. She ran. 2 days later, I was served. A lawsuit, emotional abuse, allegations of manipulation, of control, claims she had never once mentioned before. I read it once, then read it again. The lines were generic, fabricated. She was hoping the first strike would shake me, that I'd fumble. I didn't. I brought in a forensic specialist. I had metadata pulled from the documents she submitted, timestamps, digital footprints, and recovery history from her own cloud. At least 2 of the documents had been edited post-dated. One was forged entirely, her signature copy-pasted from an older contract. The specialist compiled a report, notarized it, and we added it to the court file. On the day of the hearing, she wore black, modest, no makeup, as if the disguise could rewrite history. I arrived in silence, my lawyer carrying a binder labeled Exhibit A, Life of Deceit. When the judge asked for opening statements, we didn't start with the affair. We started with the finances, the cash, the withdrawals in cities she swore she never visited. Then came the drone footage. Katie on the dock, her arms around Blake, her lips on his. The room stilled. Her lawyer whispered something. She looked down at the table and didn't raise her eyes again for the rest of the morning. We didn't stop. I handed over the planner, the initials BT, the apartment lease in Miami, the photos from the condo, the text logs, then finally the messages. Her promise to sell our shared assets, her threats to fabricate stories if I ever got in the way. Every sentence lined up like a brick wall with no exit. When the ruling came, it didn't take long. I got the house. I kept the car. I was awarded full custody of our daughter. Katie didn't just lose the case. She lost the ground beneath her feet. The judge's voice was calm, detached, and final. She left the state within 72 hours. Her lawyer sent a one-line message days later. My client will not appeal. Good. She never deserved a second chance to rewrite the truth. Revenge wasn't the goal, not officially, but there's a point where exposing the truth stops being about justice and starts feeling like balance. I didn't go looking for Blake Thomas. He was handed to me, in text messages, in flight receipts, in the way Katie whispered his name when she forgot her world was built on lies. She gave him to me like a gift. So I unwrapped him. I started with the company. He worked at an international real estate development firm based in Boston. Tall buildings, glossy portfolios, a reputation built on clean deals and elite discretion. I didn't need to break in. I just needed to know where to push. So I sent the photos first. Katie kissing him by the yacht, her hand in his at the condo, him shirtless with a bottle of champagne in their Miami apartment. I addressed it all to their HR department. I made no threats, no demands, just facts. Then I attached a second file, GPS logs matching his corporate vehicle to off-hours trips, mostly during working days. One of those logs traced him to a rooftop club on a Tuesday at 11 a.m. when his time card said client presentation. I highlighted that line in red. On the second day, I leaked his private messages to Katie, the ones she sent from her company email, boasting about how dumb Max still is and how fast we can sell the car once the court slams him. I didn't post them to social media. I uploaded them to his company's internal feedback form, the one meant for transparent culture communication. It was anonymous, of course, but not invisible. He was terminated by Friday. I watched it unfold in real time. First came the email bounce back, then the deactivation of his LinkedIn, then quietly a phone call from a Boston number to Katie's burner. She picked up outside a cafe. I watched from across the street, sipping coffee from a paper cup, as her hand trembled slightly during the call. I already knew what she was hearing. Not just the fallout, but the panic that comes with realizing your golden parachute has holes. I didn't stop there. I contacted his family. A private message to his wife. Yes, wife. The one still posting about pregnancy cravings and baby names on her blog. I introduced myself as someone who had stumbled across some disturbing financial overlap. I said I thought she had the right to know before lawyers got involved. I sent her a photo, one from the Miami condo. Katie wearing nothing but his dress shirt, laughing with a glass in hand while Blake nuzzled her neck. There was a handwritten card on the table. Can't wait to escape this life with you. She replied within 10 minutes. 2 hours later, I got a message from a blocked number. You don't know what you're doing. But I did, because Blake's wife filed for divorce the next day. She served him in front of his mother, who promptly disowned him. Their family accounts were frozen. His name was removed from the guest list for a foundation gala he was scheduled to headline. His entire image, one of clean deals and family values, crumbled like plaster under floodlight. That same day, I filed a motion with the court to have Katie's access to all joint accounts permanently blocked. Bank, insurance, shared points, rewards, even the family Spotify account. Every login now rerouted to a recovery email I controlled. Every attempt to recover or reset triggered a silent flag, forwarded to my phone. She tried 6 times in one afternoon. I didn't respond. Instead, I bought a new domain. I uploaded everything. The texts, drone footage, hotel bills, fake travel schedules, the planner with BT initials, the gift receipts. It was an archive and password protected, organized by date and location. Then I sent her one email. No subject, no preamble, just the link and the password. She clicked it within 5 minutes. The system logged every second she stayed. 23 minutes, 38 files opened, 1 download, then nothing. Not even a message. That silence was louder than any apology she could have mustered. Because in those 23 minutes, she saw everything. Not just what I knew, but how much I had always known. She saw the depth of the record, the breadth of the betrayal. She saw the part of me she never understood. I don't explode. I don't scream. I don't throw things. I build evidence. And when the time comes, I bury people with their own words. Blake tried to email me, a Hail Mary apology, half threat, half plea. I didn't know what she was doing, he wrote. It was never about you. You need to understand that. I didn't reply, but I did forward his email to his new HR contact. He'd just landed a freelance consultancy gig, trying to bounce back. I let them know his full name, the public scandal, and a Google Drive link for verification, just in case they wanted to perform a background check. The job posting was pulled the next morning. I didn't gloat, didn't text Katie, didn't brag to friends or post anything online. I sat in my home now legally and financially mine, and sipped black coffee while the morning sun crept across the floor. Then I created one more file, a simple one, 3 words typed in the center of the screen. Now you know. 2 months passed like pages I didn't need to reread. There were no more texts from Katie, no calls, no letters slid under the door with tear-streaked handwriting begging for closure. Just a cold, dry space where she used to exist. And I was content to leave it that way. But she wasn't done. I was at my desk, helping my daughter construct a model bridge for her school project when the letter came. Hand-delivered. Cream-colored envelope. No return address. I opened it carefully, expecting maybe another legal stunt, some retroactive plea for asset reconsideration. But inside was a single line. I'm coming back for the house. For her, no signature. It was vague, but deliberate. Katie's language. Always knowing how to hover just close enough to menace without being actionable. But vague didn't matter anymore. Not when I had legal custody, property rights, and a growing record of her behavior. The next morning, I walked into the courthouse and filed for a permanent protection order. I attached every relevant document, from the first bank withdrawal she lied about to the surveillance screenshots and the forged documents from her fake abuse claim. I wasn't angry. I was prepared. The court clerk raised an eyebrow as she reviewed the packet, then quietly stamped the filing without questions. Within a week, the order was granted. No contact, physical or digital. Any attempt, any violation, would go directly to the local police. It wasn't symbolic. It was a wall, one I reinforced every chance I got. I hired a cybersecurity expert from Seattle, someone I'd quietly followed for years in forums, someone who specialized in complete digital purges, not deletion, erasure. We sat down in a co-working space and I handed him the list. Emails, cloud accounts, photo backups, shared albums, social logins, even third-party utilities where her name had once been typed next to mine. He nodded, then got to work. Within 3 days, she was gone from every trace of my digital world. No lingering metadata, no undeleted drafts. My Google Photos returned to default albums. The Spotify family plan split. Shared banking history encrypted and separated under different ID chains. Even my contact lists, where her number once hovered in favorites, had been burned clean. Then I changed my social security number. It wasn't easy, but with the court's backing, documented fraud, and 2 notarized affidavits, the system allowed it. I stood at the DMV like anyone else, filling out forms with a calm precision I didn't have 6 months ago. When I walked out with a temporary ID and a new number, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. At our daughter's school, I made the final pass. Updated contact information, emergency protocols, guardian permissions. Katie's name was removed from every system. No more notifications, no more calendar requests, no more digital fingerprints. Even the front desk staff, who once asked about the pretty flight attendant mom, were briefed, trained, and legally protected from giving her any access. If she showed up, they were instructed to call the police. I didn't explain the details to my daughter, just told her that sometimes people who say they love us don't know how to take care of us, and it's our job to make sure we're safe, always. She nodded with the kind of understanding kids aren't supposed to have yet. But life doesn't wait for permission to get messy. That weekend, I threw her a birthday party, a real one. Not like the half-attended, rushed ones Katie used to orchestrate between layovers. This one had balloons, friends, a cake shaped like a robot. I invited her new classmates and a couple of neighbors with kids the same age. We grilled hot dogs in the backyard, painted faces, gave out goodie bags with little math puzzles and glow sticks. There was no drama, no whispered apologies, no ghost hovering near the edge of the lawn. Just laughter, the kind that made the silence afterward feel earned. But of course, it couldn't stay quiet forever. 2 days later, my phone buzzed. A flagged number. Katie. A new line. One not blocked yet. She left a voicemail, not realizing the call had been recorded and auto-forwarded to my lawyer. Her voice was frantic, distant. You can't just cut me out. She's my daughter too. You don't get to decide that. But I did. I didn't call her back. Instead, I uploaded the recording to the case file and sent a digital copy to the local precinct just to reinforce the protection order. Later that night, I sat with a stack of forms and submitted the last piece. I changed my daughter's last name. She didn't ask for it, not directly, but she stopped writing Katie's surname on drawings months ago, started signing her first name only, or mine. It wasn't anger, just instinct, like she could feel that weight already sliding off. Now, legally, it was official. New school records, new ID, new future. I tucked the certificate into a drawer next to my own new documents. 2 names, 1 family, no ghosts. Katie was gone from every login, every backup, every filing cabinet. There wasn't a photograph left in this house where her face hadn't already been boxed and burned. Her email addresses bounced, her access denied. The only traces of her were printed in the folders at my lawyer's office, preserved not for memory but for evidence. That night I stood outside with the trash bin, holding the last remnants, old utility bills with her name, junk mail she never changed, an old envelope from a Christmas card we never sent. I dropped them all in, shut the lid, and let the silence settle over me like a blanket. I didn't smile. I didn't speak. I just exhaled. There was nothing left of her here. And finally, that was the point. It started with a quiet DM. A man named Devin, late 40s, recent divorce, father of 2, reached out after hearing some version of what happened to me. Said a friend of his worked in asset management, had overheard something wild about a guy who used drone footage and metadata to dismantle his cheating wife and her lover. I didn't confirm or deny it. I just asked, "What do you need?" He said, "I'm being drained without realizing it. I need someone who sees it before it's too late." And just like that, I wasn't just a survivor. I was a consultant. The next week, I helped him trace a hidden Venmo trail, payments from his account to vendors linked to his wife's trainer. By Friday, he'd frozen the joint accounts and secured his kids' college funds in a separate, locked trust. He called me the following Monday and said, "Whatever you're charging, double it. Just tell me where to send the check." So I built a firm. Nothing flashy, no signage, just a five-letter name and an encrypted website. Stratlock, asset protection and litigation prep, for men too stunned to act and too blind to see the gears grinding beneath their marriage. I wasn't advertising revenge. I was selling foresight. I launched a private Telegram channel, invite only, and started posting anonymized case studies. One guy found a second mortgage in his name. Another discovered a secret OnlyFans account linked to his wife's offshore income. Each time I helped them document, react, and reclaim. Quietly, surgically. No grand speeches, no confrontation in hotel lobbies, just actions. Legally bulletproof and emotionally silent. Word spread. By month 4, I had 3 clients on retainer, including a commercial landlord in Atlanta and a former NFL strength coach who cried during our intake call, but had his financial security rebuilt within 2 weeks. They weren't weak men, just unprepared. I knew that version of myself too well. The turning point came in Austin. I was invited to speak at a closed-door legal conference on digital security and divorce litigation. It wasn't a TED Talk crowd, no hashtags or roundtable applause, just attorneys, tech investigators, and one disbarred judge who nodded along every time I mentioned strategic containment. My presentation was called Contingency by Design. Afterward, they offered to pay me 5 figures to consult on a case involving a celebrity chef whose ex-wife rerouted 20 grand a month into crypto wallets through culinary consultant invoices. And that's where I met Eva. She wasn't like the others. Sharp eyes, fast questions, zero time for fluff. A litigation fraud attorney from Dallas, she had a reputation for dismantling forgeries and freezing digital assets mid-transfer. We didn't flirt. We collaborated. Our first conversation was about synthetic bank chains and fake invoice software. Our second was about burner phones and metadata traps. By the third, I asked if she wanted to grab dinner. She said, "If you can explain what a dead man switches over steak, I'm in." 3 weeks later, I brought her to Seattle for a seminar. She watched me speak from the back of the room, arms folded, expression unreadable. Afterwards, she said, "You don't teach like a consultant. You teach like someone who's already dismantled the bomb." I told her I had. We didn't define what we were. We didn't post. We didn't kiss in front of people. But I bought a toothbrush for her, and she left a spare pair of heels in my hallway. That was enough, until the email came. It was short, no greeting, just a 2-word subject line. "I'm sorry." The sender? Katie. After everything, the lies, the lawsuits, the recorded voicemails and silent attacks, she had the nerve to pop up like a ghost testing the lock on a sealed room. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. The subject said everything. Not regret, not confession, just a last attempt at relevance. I hovered over the delete button, then I smiled, forwarded the message, attached it to a file, because the man she was now involved with, the one I'd traced to a civil suit in Chicago, accusing him of coercive control and credit fraud, had recently reached out through my Telegram channel. He didn't mention her name, just said he suspected his girlfriend was using an old playbook, wanted help preparing his assets before the blow landed. Now he had proof, a breadcrumb from the same email she once used to cancel our family getaway and lie about a funeral. I didn't write anything in the body. No explanation, no context, just the forward. Katie never wrote again. And Iva? She saw the email as I clicked send, watched the corner of my mouth curve as I leaned back in my chair. "Is that another piece of your puzzle?" "No," I said. "It's the last one I didn't need." I bought the house in May. It sat on the northern curve of Lake Chelan, tucked behind a slope of pines that smelled like permanence in still water. A wide porch, stone chimney, windows that caught the morning sun just right and let it spill across the kitchen tile like soft light on a clean slate. No ghosts here, just a fresh floor beneath our feet and nothing left above us but sky. The paperwork went through in under 3 weeks. All cash, no lenders, no red tape. I wanted it that way. Nothing anyone could take. Nothing anyone could contest. The deed was in my name alone, but I added my daughter's initials to the gate, not for show, just because. She adjusted fast. Kids always do when you trade chaos for consistency. She had a dog now. a floppy-eared mutt with no pedigree and too much heart. They ran the yard together like they'd been born on that stretch of grass. Every Saturday morning, we drove 20 minutes to a robotics club in town. I watched her light up around circuit boards, tiny motors, wires in her hands like a language she already understood. We hiked twice a month. She kept a journal of trail names and leaf sketches. Said she wanted to build a drone someday, like the one you use for work. She didn't know what that drone had seen. She didn't need to. Eva moved in that summer. Not all at once. First, it was her favorite mug showing up in the dishwasher. Then her files on my desk, her coat on the back of the kitchen chair, a worn copy of Bleak House tucked into the bookshelf beside mine. She kept her Dallas apartment but stopped going. Said there was more to protect here. We didn't talk about Katie, not because it was taboo, just because it was over, like an old account that no longer had a password or a balance. Eva understood that better than anyone. She knew the difference between wounds and scar tissue, between obsession and control. One night, sitting by the lake after dinner, my daughter asked the question, who was she? The sky was half stars, half reflection, the kind of evening that begged for truth, even if it hurt. She's someone we left behind, I said. That was it. She didn't press. Later that week, Katie tried to join a parenting group chat for the school. The admin, a woman named Shira, who ran the PTA like a courtroom, removed her within the hour. Cited the no-contact order, the court custody records. No debate. That evening, I made spaghetti from scratch, while Eva prepped garlic bread, and my daughter danced around the kitchen with flour on her nose. I didn't say it out loud, but in my chest was a kind of quiet I hadn't felt in years. Not safety, not even happiness. Just the absence of dread. And that was enough. I deleted the last old account that night. An unused backup email from the days when I still logged into things with Katie's name on the recovery list. The system warned me before final deletion. Are you sure you want to proceed? This action is irreversible? I clicked yes. Then I closed the laptop. The next morning, I found my old journal on a shelf. The one I used to fill with notes about timelines, evidence, inconsistencies. I flipped through it slowly. The paranoia, the proof, the pain, all stacked in my own handwriting. Pages of clarity pulled from chaos. On the last page, I'd written a single sentence and never finished it. She doesn't know yet that... I crossed it out. Then I shut the journal for good. We left the lake house that afternoon to visit a small exhibit in town. Local artists, wood carvings, metal sculptures, handcrafted furniture. My daughter picked out a tiny copper fox. Eva smiled and whispered, "Fierce little thing." I nodded. No one there knew what I'd been through. No one asked. And I didn't tell them. Because sometimes survival isn't about shouting what happened. It's about walking into a room where no one looks at you like a broken man. Where you're not defined by what you escaped. It's about the lake, the dog, the robotics kid in the back seat. It's about waking up and realizing the storm is gone, and the roof held. That night, I poured one glass of wine. Just one. Sat outside with my feet on the railing. Eva came out and draped a blanket across my shoulders without saying a word. The dog curled up at our feet, our daughter's laughter still echoing from inside. No noise, no fire. No ghosts, just tomorrow and everything after. That's all for now, folks. Thank you for being with me today and listened. And if you liked my story, please subscribe, hit the like button, and comment below what you think about all this and what would you do if you were me. Also, don't forget to check my other stories in description below.